Hello, my name's Mark Venables. I am the first team scorer for Richmond, and hopefully this is a fairly simple tutorial about how to begin with scoring cricket. Okay, so there are essentially 6 key areas to a scorebook. The first is this top area up here, which is where you fill in any details about who is playing, the venue, the date, which I've already filled out here, which side is batting at the time, and who has won the toss and what type of match it is. This tends to be on any sort of scorebook that you will find. The area below it on this book, again, I should say that any scorebook could be different in terms of its layout, but in this book, the next area is for the batsman, which explains sort of how their runs have been scored, how they've been dismissed and by which bowler, and how many runs they've scored. Below that on this book is the fall of each wicket, so when what score each wicket has fallen and for what score that batsman has been dismissed for. Below that are the bowling figures, so that is going through each over for each bowler and saying what has happened for each ball. This section over here is a tally for the runs scored during the innings, so you can keep a track of that. And this section down the right-hand side is describing what the situation is at the end of each over. So I thought the easiest way to go through all this would be to take you through an over and perhaps describe some different scenarios which you might face. So the first thing I've done, as you can see, is to fill out the details about who is playing and the venue and the date, which is the first thing you would do for any game in any scorebook. I've then added your first 2 batsmen, which in this case are batsman X and batsman Y, and a bowler V down here, because you would always have 2 batsmen to start an innings and 1 bowler beginning an innings. So the next thing would happen is that the first ball of the match would be bowled, and for instance we will say that there is no run scored from the first ball, and all that you would need to do in that instance is to mark a dot ball against bowler V. So we would just put a dot there, and that signifies that there is no run scored and you would not need to do anything else. For the second ball, we will say that a single run is scored. Now in this situation, the first thing I would do would be to mark the single run against batsman X, who has faced that delivery, so he has scored 1 run. I would then follow the page down to bowler V, and I would mark that there is a single run scored against bowler V. I would then mark that 1 off my tally so that the team is on 1 run. So now for the next ball, batsman Y is facing bowler V because the batsmen have swapped ends, and I would say that batsman Y has, for example, scored 4 runs. So I would mark the 4 against batsman Y in the same way as I marked the single against batsman X. I would then put the 4 in the box for bowler V, explaining that 4 has been scored against bowler V. And I would then mark the 4 runs on the tally against the tally chart over here. So we've still got, because of the 4 runs scored, batsman Y facing bowler V. So we'll say for the 4th ball that a wide ball has been bowled by bowler V to batsman Y. And so we would signify a wide ball by putting a cross against bowler V in their bowler box. And then we would use the extras section to mark the single wide here. And then we would go up to the tally and add 1 to the score here. And I would normally add that by doing a cross in the same way that you have in the bowler's box. So that then completes your scoring of that 4th delivery, but because there's been a wide, there are still 3 balls left in the over. So for example, we'd then say that the next ball is another dot, because that is the most common ball in a game of cricket. And so we would just, again, as we did with the first ball of the over, we would mark a dot ball next to the wide ball there. We'll then use another example of an extra for the next ball. So we will say that there is a bye bowled by bowler V and fielded by the fielding team. And the signal I would use in a scorebook for a bye is to put in a normal triangle into the bowler box. And then I would again use the extras section to mark a single extra in the extras box, and I would update the tally with the triangle I've just done. One thing that bye does is means that batsman Y is now no longer on strike, and they have crossed, and batsman X would now be on strike. And we will say that the final ball of the over is a wicket, which involves the most labour-intensive work to score. So the first thing I would do with any wicket is against the batsman who has been dismissed, I would mark that with 2 chevrons, as I'm doing there. I would then explain, as it does here, how many 4s and 6s that batsman had scored. So in this instance, batsman X had just scored the 1 run, so I would mark that they scored no 4s and 6s. I would then explain how that batsman has been dismissed. So we will say in this instance that that batsman has been caught. So I would write caught in that how out box, and then explain by which bowler that is. So obviously that is bowler V. So I'd write bowler V in there. And then the total column over here is explaining how many runs that batsman has scored. So I would say they have scored the 1 run that you can see over here. So that completes the batsman section. I would then follow it down as we have before to the bowlers section. And all you would need to do for the bowlers section is to put in a W to signify that that bowler has taken a wicket. Now the next thing to do with any wicket is to go to the fall of wicket section, which has 5 columns, as you can see here in 5 rows in this section. So the first is the score on which that wicket fell, and for that you would use the amount that's in your tally chart at the time. So that here is 7. This particular scorebook then goes on to ask what the outgoing batsman's score was. So that would be the 1 that we have seen here. And it also asks what the not out batsman's score is. So that would be the score that batsman Y is on here, which we can see is 4. The partnership is the runs scored by these 2 batsmen together since the fall of the last wicket. So that, because the game started on 0 and they are now on 7, would be 7. And then it also asks for the time and the over number that the batsman was dismissed in. This also brings us to the end of the over. And at the end of every over, there are 2 things which you need to do. The first is to fill out the little box below the bowler, which would give the bowler's figures at the end of that over. So you need to fill in 2 things for this. One is the number of wickets that that bowler has taken, and the other is the number of runs that that bowler has conceded as of the end of that over. So the number of wickets that the bowler has taken in this instance so far is 1, as in he or she has taken the wicket of batsman X, but no other wicket. And they have conceded 6 runs, in that they have conceded the single run, the 4, and the wide. The bye is not counted against the bowler as a cricketing rule, so the bowler has only conceded 6 runs. So we would mark that. We would also mark the score of the end of the over. So the total score column showing here would be your number from your tally. So that here is 7. You then mark the number of wickets that have fallen, which would be the 1 wicket of batsman X. And some scorecards also have then the number of the bowler. So rather than writing that this over was bowled by bowler V, you would just note that it was the first bowler who had bowled, and so you would write bowler number 1. Obviously, the dismissal of batsman X would then require a new batsman to arrive, so we'll call them batsman Z. And you'd also have a new bowler who you would write as bowler W. And that is essentially the key components that you need to know for scoring. It's important to note that for any extras that are scored, you can use any notation which you wish, as long as you know what they mean. So you've already seen me use this cross for a wide and this triangle for a bye. There are two other common forms of extra which can occur. The first being a leg bye, for which I would recommend using an inverse triangle, and the other being a no ball, which I normally denote as a circle. Those are the key things which you need to know to basically score any game of cricket which occurs. Thank you very much for following that tutorial. Hopefully you found that relatively easy to follow. If you do want any further information, then please feel free to contact me. My email address is markvenables, Venables spelt VENABLES, 29@gmail.com. That's Mark Venables, VENABLES, 29@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to answer anything that you wish to know. Thank you very much.